Helen doesn't remember deciding to let the cat sleep on her chest. She doesn't remember agreeing to any of it, really. The way he follows her from room to room now, the way he waits outside the bathroom door, the way he climbs onto her shoulder the second she sits still for too long. It just happened. One evening, she looked down and he was there, pressed against her collarbone like he had always slept that way. Something in her chest loosened, just slightly, just enough to notice. His name is Biscuit. Cream and brown tabby, a white chin, white socks, and eyes the color of strong tea. He is 7 years old, and he belonged to both of them. Now he only has her. Helen had been married to Walter for 32 years. In all that time, she had never once slept in an empty house. Then came the diagnosis. Then came 8 months of hospital rooms that grew more familiar than her own kitchen. She learned the names of the nurses. She learned the sound of the machines. The nights blurred into mornings without ever quite becoming either. On a Tuesday in March, Walter was gone. There was a funeral, there were casseroles left on the porch by neighbors who didn't know what else to say. There were cards, dozens of them, propped along the mantel. After a while, they stopped feeling like comfort and started feeling like proof. Then, one by one, the visits stopped. The calls thinned out. The house, which had never once felt large, suddenly had too many rooms. Biscuit had come into their lives 6 years earlier. Walter found him shivering under the porch during a storm, a scrawny kitten no bigger than a fist. "We are not keeping him," Walter had said, already carrying him inside wrapped in a towel. They kept him, of course. He grew up more Walter's cat than hers, if anyone was keeping score. Always in his lap, always waiting by the door at 5 o'clock for the sound of his truck in the driveway. After the funeral, Helen expected Biscuit to search for him, to cry at the door, to wait, the way she still caught herself waiting. He didn't. Instead, he found her. It started small. The first week, Biscuit stopped sleeping at the foot of the bed and began curling against her hip instead. The second week, he refused to eat unless she sat in the kitchen with him. He'd ignore a full bowl entirely, waiting until she wandered back in and sat down nearby. It was as if his hunger were somehow tied to hers. Then came the couch. Walter's spot had always been the left cushion. It was worn slightly lower than the rest, softened by 3 decades of evenings spent there with the newspaper. Helen hadn't been able to sit there since the funeral. She curled up on the right side instead, leaving his cushion untouched, like a held breath. One evening, she came in from the kitchen and found Biscuit sitting squarely in the middle of that cushion. He was facing her, tail wrapped neatly around his paws. He didn't move when she approached. He simply waited. She sat down beside him instead of across the room. He climbed straight into her lap and stayed there for 3 hours through a show she wasn't really watching. He did this every evening after that. Not sitting on the cushion exactly, more like guarding it, making it safe for her to return. If you're still here and you haven't subscribed yet, I have to be honest, that stings a little. Stories like Helen's deserve to reach more people than just the ones who happen to scroll past. So if you've made it this far, hit that button. By the second month, Biscuit had learned things about her that Helen hadn't told anyone. He knew the difference between an ordinary quiet evening and a bad one. On the ordinary nights, he dozed near her feet, unbothered. On the bad nights, Biscuit appeared before she even realized she was struggling. The nights she'd stand in front of Walter's closet for no reason at all, just looking. He would press his full weight into her side. He would refuse to be shooed away. He would purr, low and steady, until her breathing slowly matched his. 10 minutes, sometimes 15. Whatever storm had been building behind her ribs would pass. It was quieted by 7 pounds of cat who simply would not leave her alone. Moments like these are exactly why this story deserves to be told. Her daughter Claire called every Sunday now to check in. "You sound better," Claire said carefully, the way people had learned to speak to her since March. "I have help," Helen told her. She was smiling at the sight of Biscuit, stretched fully across her lap like he owned it. He began meeting her at the door after errands, something he had never done before, not even for Walter. In the evenings, he still watched the driveway at the hour Walter used to come home. When the headlights never came, he'd simply turn and settle into her lap instead. He slept pressed against her spine at night. It was a small, warm weight that made the other side of the bed feel different,
less like an absence, more like simply empty, which she was slowly learning was not the same thing as unbearable. She hadn't chosen any of this. He had decided it for both of them, one quiet insistence at a time. Then came the anniversary of the day Helen and Walter had met, the first one without him. Helen had been dreading it for weeks without saying so out loud to anyone. That evening, she opened a box in the closet she hadn't meant to touch. Old photographs, ticket stubs, a pressed flower from their wedding, flattened thin as paper. She sat down on the bedroom floor and finally let herself break, fully, in a way she hadn't allowed since the eulogy, since the folded program still tucked in her purse, since months of careful, practiced composure. She didn't hear Biscuit come in. She only felt him. He climbed straight into the wreckage of photographs in her lap, pressing his head hard against her chin. He refused to be moved aside. If tonight feels heavy for you too, know you're not sitting with it alone. He stayed like that for a long time, long after her breathing steadied, long after the light outside the window went from gold to gray to dark. He didn't try to fix anything, he just stayed, the way he had been staying every single day since March, proving one quiet evening at a time that she hadn't been left as alone as she feared. Grief, Helen has come to understand, doesn't announce when it's finished. It simply gets quieter, softened by small, repeated proof that you are still here, still noticed, still worth staying for. Biscuit never replaced what she lost, nothing could have, but he became something else entirely, a steady, breathing reminder that love doesn't always need words to keep showing up. Sometimes it arrives on 4 quiet paws, curls into the empty spaces of a house, and simply refuses to leave. If you're grieving someone right now, Helen would want you to know this. The ones who stay don't always announce themselves loudly. Sometimes they just climb into your lap in the middle of the worst of it and wait, patiently, for you to remember that you are not doing this alone. Do you think animals can actually sense our grief, or do they simply choose to stay close anyway? Tell me what you think down in the comments. SEO description. Helen had been married to Walter for 32 years before cancer took him after 8 difficult months. What she never expected was who would refuse to leave her side once the house went quiet, a 7-year-old tabby named Biscuit, who chose night after night to stay. This is a story about grief, quiet companionship, and the animals who show up for us when we need them most. Hashtags: cat story, cat lover, cats on YouTube, pet story, emotional story, grief and healing, rescue cat story, animal companion, cat behavior, true story time, healing story, cat video, pet loss.